All right, people. I'm gonna see what can I read from this. Babylon TIMBUKTU. I like this Babylon TIMBUKTU. It talks about the birth of Muhammad. Yeah. This one here is talking about the original black race. Originally, all Hamites and Shemites or Shemites were black. Abraham was a black Shemite and a descendant of Shem. Shem is the father of the Hebrews in the Bible. The name of Abraham was Abram before he was referred to as Abraham. The three Hebrew patriarchs were Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. This Jacob begot 12 sons, who later fathered the 12 tribes of Israel. Abraham was the father not only of the Hebrew Israelite nation, but also of the Arab nations. Because you have to understand, when you look at Genesis chapter 14, you will see how Abraham, the Ishmael, the Arabs had took Abraham's brother, actually took him captive. And Abraham had to go and free his brother. He had to go and fight for his brother. He armed all of his trained soldiers. The Bible says 318. So they went to war. And that's why they say the Arabs had never had nothing to do with your slavery, with our slavery. No, they don't have nothing to do with us living in the ghetto and in the slums. Deuteronomy 28 and verse 1 does not even fit the Arabs at all, because guess what? The Arabs wasn't never enslaved. That's why I love this man that wrote this book. It's called The History of the Ancient Black Race, including the Black Hebrews, written by Rudolph Windsor. Rudolph Windsor. That's right. And I'm literally reading this book. Now let's go. Let's keep going. The three Hebrew patriarchs. Okay, I read that already. Now the mother and grandmother of the Arabian nations were black Hamite, Egyptian women, and the father of the Arabian nations were Abraham and Ishmael. Hold on, man. I feel something crawling on me. Okay. Black Shemites at a certain time. See, what we have to understand, man, is that the Europeans and all those people had our people in slavery. And when you look at the Ishmael, that's the Arabs. They didn't have nothing to do with your slavery, with our slavery at all. No. That's a so-called white man, Esau. Yeah. But let's keep going. Now the mother and grandmother of the Arabian nation were black Hamite. Egyptian women, and the fathers of the Arabian nation were Abraham and Ishmael, black Shemites. At a certain time, there were hard feelings between Sarah and Abraham's wife, and Hagar, Sarah's maiden servant. So Hagar fled from Abraham's house and dwelt in the wilderness. Josephus, the Jewish historians, wrote that Ishmael married an Egyptian woman. Now, to break down that word Ishmael, the word Ishmael, means Jewish, means to pertain to. And we're going to get off into that as I continue to keep going. As a result, he begot 12 sons: Nabijah, Kedar, Adbeel, Mibsam. Okay, I think they did that on purpose. I was live, and what I was talking about, I was reading from this book written by Rudolph Winslow. He was a man that wrote about how our people was enslaved. This is I love this, and this will always be the #1 book that this man wrote, Rudolph Winslow. He wrote Babylon TIMBUKTU, and we're going to get deeply off into this here. Now, when you look at, this is what I was talking about, the original black race, and I'm very proud it's to exalt this book of this brother, because it exposed the slave trade of Esau. It does. Now, I don't know why they made they cut it off, and they did it on purpose, I believe. All right, the original black race. Originally, all Hamites and Shemites were black. Abraham was a black Shemite. Okay, let's go on down. It said, now the mother and the grandmother of the Arabian nation were black Hamites, Egyptian women, and the fathers of the Arabian nation were Abraham and Ishmael, black Shemites. At a certain time, there were hard feelings between Sarah and Abraham's wife, Hagar, Sarah's maid servant. So Hagar fled from Abraham's house and dwelt in the wilderness. Josephus, the Jewish historians, wrote that Ishmael married an Egyptian woman. As a result, he begot 12 sons: Nabijah, Kedar, Adbeel, Mizmaim, Mishmael, Dilmah, Massa, Hadar, Timnah, Jatar, Naphish, and Kiddemat. These 12 sons became 12 tribes, and the inhabitation she reigned from the Euphrates to the Red Sea in the Arabian Peninsula. This country is known today as Arabian. To those who do not believe that the ancient Arabians were black, I would like to make one point crystal clear. If your mother and grandmother were black, I am positive that you would have many colored feathers. Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and the 12 tribes of Israel were all black people. Thus I shall prove to you by a gradual method. After Joseph was sold down into Egypt as a slave, we find in the 42nd chapter of Genesis, I feel like something bite me or something. Oh, it's all right. 42nd chapter of Genesis, that he became the viceroy of Egypt. Joseph's 10 brothers came unto Egypt. Egypt is in Africa to buy corn because a famine was in the land. All newcomers who came unto Egypt had to buy corn from Joseph. But when Joseph's 10 brothers came to Africa, they did not recognize him. Now, the story went on. You remember when Sarah was messing with the Egyptian woman in Genesis. Now, those people dwelt in the east. Now, God had already told Abraham not to intermingle with those other nations like that. But later down the line, they did. And so they got, what happened was, because they did that, the Hamites, which were the ones that enslaved the Shemites, which were the Hebrew nation, they were both a dark people. They were dark race. And so when the Hebrew the Hebrew nation disobeyed God and didn't keep the commandments of God, then what happened was they intermingled and took the Egyptian women. And what happened was, that's why how we got the different skin colors and the tones that we have now. If you look at Esau, the biblical name for the so-called white man, a lot of our people look just like them, but they father's seed go back to the Hebrew nation. You see what I'm saying? But the reason a lot of people lighten up later on is because our forefathers intermingled with these other nations. And that's what actually caused us is to look different. You know, like looking like Arabs, looking like having futures of other nations, because we went off and we intermingled with these other nations. Just like if you look at Hosea chapter 7 in verse 8, the Bible says Ephraim is the northern kingdom of Puerto Rican. If you look at the so-called tribe of Ephraim today, which would be the Puerto Ricans, a lot of them, if you look at them, they look white. You see what I'm saying? But it's because that our forefathers disobeyed God, and they started following the customs of the heathens, because these Egyptians, they were heathen women. I mean, yeah, they was heathen women he was messing with. And that's what brought in the lighter skin color. And then you had the people from, I'm gonna say from North Africa, went to messing with the European women, and that's why you got a lot of Europeans. They look similar to the people of North Africa, and you got the North Africans went and they had the black, the so-called African American women and stuff like that. And then you had our people interbreeding with all of their women too as well. You see what I'm saying? This is where we get this mixed race, and a lot of us looking different, because you can't tell the difference from an Israelite from a brother. You can't really tell the difference, because you know what I mean? Because with a lot of our people look alike. That's why you have to ask people what their nationality is, because you can look at a person and a person may look Caucasian, but the European, more than likely, sometime you may mistake a person who looked Caucasian, but they actually African descent, African American descent. You see what I'm saying? Because you just can't look at a person based upon skin color and say, oh, that person is of the black race because they black as tar. Because you got people who is like black as tar with thin lips and thin nose, right? And this is what I want to tell our people. And that's why I haven't probably been on the streets, because when you go on the streets, you got to know what you're talking about. Let's see if I can find that script, that little script. I want to see if I can read it to you. The history of the dynasty in the civilization of Egypt may be divided into three parts. They are as follows: the old kingdom of the Pilgrim age, the middle kingdom, and the new kingdom or new empire. The first king of the first dynasty of the old kingdom was Mes. The date of his ascension to the throne was about 3500 BC. He wrote a unique double crown symbolizing the unity of the upper and lower Egypt. Okay, this is not really what I'm looking for, but I want to find the part. Hold on. Now, some of these words in here are hard. You see what I'm saying? But it's talking about the Ramesses, the black African Hebrews of Egypt and Ethiopia. From what period can we certify the existence of the black Hebrews in Egypt and Ethiopia? You have to remember the Ethiopians, they are not, they had our people in slavery too, because they had a hand in what was called the slave trade. They took and captured a lot of our people and brought them into slavery too. During the period of the king Take-Lot of Egypt, 23rd tenant dynasty, about 725 BC, and the prophet Isaiah of Jerusalem, because we read in Isaiah 11:11 that, and it shall come to pass in that day, said the Lord, shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria. Now you have to understand, the Assyrians had our people in captivity too. And from Egypt, and from Patros, and the upper Egypt, and from Cush, and Ethiopia. Isaiah chapter 27, verse 13, we get the understanding that the outcast of Judah. Now, this is talking about the outcast. This is talking about, you can't look at people because this person is from Nigeria, right? You can't say, oh, he said, where you from? Oh, from Nigeria. That doesn't determine your bloodline, because you have to remember, our people were scattered all throughout the world. Because you have to remember, do you realize that the Moors went they went into Portugal and Spain, and they took and went to Spain and grabbed a lot of the slaves from over in Spain and shift a lot of the slaves from Spain to America. Just because a person can say they from somewhere, being from somewhere doesn't make that your nationality. All right, let's keep going. In Isaiah chapter 27, verse 13, we get the understanding that the outcasts of Judah are the land of Egypt. In Isaiah 19:18, the prophet is positive that 5 cities of Egypt, 5 cities with Jews and the Egyptian converts will see that the converts, these people are converts, except the God of Israel will speak the language of Canaan. Hebrews, about 70 years after Isaiah the prophet, Zephaniah 3:10 says, from beyond the river of Ethiopia, my supplanted, even the daughter of my dispersed, shall bring my offering. Many authorities was agreed that Zephaniah was speaking concerning the Jews who were dispersed and who colonized the region in around Ethiopia. Colonize something is when people go to lands like these Europeans did and these other people did. They went to these other lands, conquered these lands, raped, robbed, and murdered, and stole these people's lands and things of that nature, and called these lands after their names and colonized it. But they never went and they never used their original language or land. This is the reason why that a lot of our people is confused the way that they are confused. But I'm so glad that the Most High woke me up so that I can get out here and tell my people so that we can get back on track, man. It says, since the Hebrew prophets and historians, for example, Josephus, knew that the Jews were in Egypt and Ethiopia, the next question is what are some of the theories concerning their arrival in these countries? The theories are as follows. King Solomon married the daughter of the king of Egypt. Obviously, this marriage was for economical and political reasoning. 1 Kings chapter 11 and verse 1. Solomon waited to maintain international peace and security and commercial. It is probable that he arranged with Pharaoh, his father-in-law, to establish Jewish trade colonies on the Nile River. By the way, Solomon married the daughters of many kings to keep them under his economic and political control. In 1 Kings 9 verse 26, we read that King Solomon made a navy of ships in Ezon-Geber, which is beside Elon, on the shore of the Red Sea, in the land of Edom, and Hiram, the king of Tyre of Phoenicia. The Phoenicians were the gods of the Africans, you know what I'm saying? And sent in the navy his servants, shipmen that had acknowledged of the sea with the servants of Solomon. And they came to Ophir and fetched from thence gold 420 talents, and brought it to King Solomon. Many scholars have postulated that the land of Ophir is on the east coast of Africa. This would be in Ethiopian territory. It would appear highly probable that Solomon would establish trade colonies along the east and west coast of the Red Sea. You know what I'm saying? Like places like Costa Rica and all that type of stuff. Ancient Ethiopia and had exclusive gold disposed to satisfy Solomon's need, as has been maintaining previously. The Persian troops of Cambyses says the prisoners in Ethiopia wore feathers of gold. The Queen of Sheba visits Solomon. The fact that her Ophir suggests that in the mind of the writer, Ophir was associated with the territory of that rich Queen of Sheba. Apparently, when the navy of Solomon came to Ophir, the Queen of Sheba heard about the greatness of Solomon. Josephus, the Jewish historian, certified the fact that the Queen of Sheba was the queen of Egypt and Ethiopia. This would mean that Jewish trade colonies were established in her territory. Josephus also says that the royal city of the Ethiopian was Sab, or Sheba. Sheba and Saba or Sheba. The two words are interchangeable. Some of these words are very hard, people. But I want to find the part in here where it talks about the European does not. All of this here part here is about Muhammad. I don't know if I'm going to be close to it. I might be close to it. Hold on, wait a minute. That's why. Oh, I think I'm coming closer to it. Hold on. Hold on. Let's see here. Let's see if I can. I don't know. Hold on. I passed it up. See, a lot of people ain't going to stay in here for this video because this is too deep for them. And I think, and that's what's wrong with a lot of people. They scared of the truth, man. Yeah, they scattered the truth. This video here, probably you ain't gonna get too much of it. You're gonna be like, Carthaginian. Carthaginian. Okay, I was just trying to make sure I knew how to say that word. Metropolis in North Africa, Rome power became dominant in Barbaria states under Roman centenary in power, and the Jews of Asia and North Africa rebelled in AD 115. The Jews considered themselves numerous enough to challenge Roman authorities in the east and in the south. Because of their numbers, of the Jews almost subdued their adversaries who had compelled them to suffer. Okay, I can read that, but I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna deal with that later. But the main part I'm looking for is let's see here. It might be at the beginning of this here, but I enjoy looking at this here. Some of these words I don't even know at all, man, because I don't get these words every day, you know. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna continue to just keep on. I'm gonna find that part where it talks about where in here, Babylon TIMBUKTU, it says a lot of the European does not classify a person with straight nose and thick woolly hair, but they still have straight nose, a thin nose, and thin lips and stuff, and they does not classify them as being part of the white race because they have Eurocentric looks, but they skin as dark as black as tar. You see what I'm saying? And they don't classify those people as being part of the white race. Just like they would take a mixed person, and when you look at biblical history and when you look at the Bible, color doesn't matter. Your nation, your father's seed, and this is the reason why I understand, as I did my research, now I understand why it's not about skin color. Now, I used to have, when I first came into this truth, I used to felt like at some point that it was about skin color until I dug deeper into this and now it can come to open, and now I have a big understanding and a big puzzle of the whole thing. You see what I'm saying? Now I understand that it does not, color doesn't matter. Your father's tribe is what make your race of people. The race starts with the man. Yep. Your father's seed is what make your nation of people. Yep. So I'm gonna get up out of here. I don't know if it sounds like I just jumped and hopped all over the place, but I'm gonna look up the part where it talked about people being dark as tar, but and straight nose and thin small lips. The European is not going to look at them because they have straight nose and thin lips and say, oh, you part of the white race, because even those people, they would classify as being part of the African race. And the Europeans also understand, and they know, is that they going to a person who has thick woolly hair, broad nose, meaning a wide nose, and full lips. The European does not classify them. A lot of them over in North Africa, East Africa, West Africa, they classify them as belonging to the white race. You see what I'm saying? So just because you you was born and raised in a certain location, that doesn't mean that the European's going to look at you and say you part of the European race because you was born here in Spain. They're not going to do that. Or you was born over in Puerto Rico, in the islands of Puerto Rico. They understand themselves. The Europeans, Esau, understand that it's all about the man's seed. They know this here. Now, we didn't know. I didn't know this here when I was coming up. I didn't know this, but they did. Yep. But they never told our people this. And I was talking with a brother of mine earlier today. He was a Benjamite brother. He's from the tribe of Benjamin. He's a Jamaican, so-called Jamaican. And I say, do you know, that's amazing that a lot of people they knew all these things and they didn't tell us this. Because they don't want you to know this here. This is some information that, well, I'm not going to say it right now. But I said, you know, it's somebody that I want to give a shout out to this hand. They really passionate about this hand, somebody in my family. So I come back and we'll talk.